you're saying that even, some people may even get married to someone, even if they don't pray. What would they do in this situation? Should they just not get married?
I happened to attend one wedding where a guy who's coming from a very practicing Muslim family fell in love with a non-Muslim woman, a non-Muslim girl. He got to know her online. And as a result, he said, Sheikh, I want to marry her. The Quran says it's okay to marry from the people of the book, and she's Christian. And no matter what you tell him, he said, you see, I gotta marry her, and she will become Muslim, and she will become a good girl, etc. And when she came, I figured that something haram may happen. So I said, okay, we'll get you married. And then they got married. In 1 week, he called me and he said, Sheikh, I divorced her. I said, why? Subhanallah, a few days ago, if anyone were to see you like you were obsessed with her love, like you would die if you don't marry her, it would be the end of the world if you don't marry her. He said, true. But Sheikh, I ended up buying alcohol for her. On daily basis, I used to go and buy alcohol for her, because I loved her. So I just realized that I'm going downhill and I will lose my deen. This is just a simple example. There are many, many examples to that. Sometimes a respected, pious, righteous person, loving to his family, to his parents, to his siblings, then he marries a woman who is kind of selfish. She wants him all for herself. Then she keeps bombarding him, ending up making him hate his family, being undutiful to his parents, literally make him boycott his siblings, not to talk to any family member. She wants him all entirely for herself. A man should be wise enough not to let this happen. Yes, I love you, but I love my parents more. And hey, we're not making a contrast or a comparison between loving your spouse and loving your parents. These are two different categories. But no one should affect the other. Understand? So understanding that loving your spouse should not lead to severing the ties of your kinship, particularly your parents and your siblings, is very important.
Like you're saying, it's not just your duties as a husband, but to your religion as well. To your family, your community,
of course.
Your own, religion, your own worship to Allah.
Absolutely, absolutely, of course.
SubhanAllah, this is a... So Sheikh, for those, for instance, who are, they don't necessarily have love, okay? That maybe their family have introduced them to a sister. He's happy with what he sees. They get married, but they're a bit worried, because they've been raised with the Hollywood and Nollywood, thinking that they should be love. So how do they now develop the love after marriage?
Well, through my experience as a marriage counselor, I figured that, subhanallah, the kind of marriage which was based on that I married this girl, or I picked up the guy, or I accepted this proposal, somebody introduced them to me, or families introduced, the mates to each other. They didn't know each other before. They didn't have love affair. Such marriages are most likely to last than the marriages which are based on love and love relationship before marriage. And this is among Muslims and non-Muslims are alike. I think I shared with you the study which was done by the Dr. Saul Jordan, the French sociologist, who came up with the results that 85% of marriages which were previously established or based on love, they end up with divorce. Because of the same fact that the Prophet ﷺ said, حُبُّكَ الشَّيْء يُعْمِي وَيُصُمْ. It blinds you, don't see a lot of things, even though they're very obvious, but you are pretending that you don't see them. You hear a lot of things, but you're acting like, you never heard of them. Why? Because you focus on one thing. I want her. Or she says, I want him. No matter what you say, no matter what the whole world says about him. But, in Islam, marriage isn't only marrying an individual. It's a merge of two families into each other. So when you marry, you should keep in mind not only who's the girl or who's the guy, but also the siblings, the
Mm.
family. Because one day, your kids, when you have kids, will say to somebody, uncle. So who's gonna be your kid's uncle? Paternal
Subhanallah.
or maternal? Who's gonna be your kid's uncle? Is he a
Subhanallah.
drug dealer? Is he an atheist?
Mm.
Is she a prostitute? Is he somebody whom you're not happy to have in the family and would most definitely have a bad influence on you and your family? Many people come to me and say, I asked my wife not to speak to her family. I say, why? Haram. And say, you don't know, Sheikh, because they have such a bad influence on my kids.
Mm.
They make them eat this, they make them watch that, and they're famous of child molestation. Well, you didn't know all of that before marriage?
Mm.
Well, unfortunately, I knew.
Mm.
I heard of, but I was blind. I hear that a lot. I was blind. I was
Mm.
deaf. So that's exactly what the Prophet ﷺ said. حُبُّكَ شَيْء يُعْمِي وَيُصُمْ. Many girls, when the parents or the family friends introduce a suitor, right away, without even considering meeting the guy, checking him out, talking to him, perhaps, maybe there's some sort of chemistry. Maybe you like him. No means no. Why? Because he is proposed to her by the parents, by the family or the family friends. She wants to find the guy on her own. She wants to find her love on her own. This is not how it goes.
Yeah, subhanAllah.